So you made a film, and whether you have just finished your script or if you are actually in the post-production and editing phase, I want to congratulate you on making it this far. What your film needs now is probably some great original music. But hiring a composer, it can be scary, it can be intimidating, it can be difficult. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through how to find a composer, how to work with a composer, and how to pay a composer. I'm also gonna give you some red flags to avoid at all costs, all to make your film as great as possible. So first of all, where do you find a film composer? Depending on where you live, there might be some sort of a local filmmaking network, and that network should include some composers. If there is no local network of people involved in filmmaking, then maybe you should start one. Call your colleagues and call your friends, set up a group, arrange meetups, and be sure to include not only like directors and editors, but also lighting people, cinematographers, composers, makeup artists, costume designers, set designers, you name it. If you are in Europe, there is a big chance that you have some sort of regional film office or a governmental body that controls like film funds and stuff, and they should be arranging these meetups as well. If there is a film school near where you live, there might also be a music school. And if there is a music school, there are people that are writing music. And now you might be thinking, but why not just go online and put up an ad? You could do that as well, but I would always start in my local area first, because there is just something of sitting together and working together. Meeting in the same room, watching the film together, that brings so much value to the process of making the score for both you and your composer. There are also a lot of benefits of being in the same economy. If you are in the EU or in the US or the UK maybe, or some other area of the world, if you are in the same economic region, that could facilitate the economic side and the paying side, without being interrupted by tariffs or any import tax on services or something like that. There are, of course, groups on Facebook, on Reddit, where you can just post an ad and you see them all the time. People looking for a composer, and their inbox gets completely obliterated by responses. And, making quality control on such a vast material of applications can be really time-consuming and really intimidating. I would say it's harder to make a good match out of that big of a selection of composers. So my recommendation is always to start where you live, where you are. You can form a very beneficial relationship. Composers and directors, they could stick together for many, many years. Look at Spielberg and John Williams. They're still working together after 50 years since their first film together. If you choose to post an advert in a Facebook group or on Reddit or wherever online, make sure that you make it as clear as possible what you are working on and what you are looking for. Specify in what kind of budget you are operating. Specify what kind of music you are after. You will get a lot of responses that are completely irrelevant nevertheless, but try to minimize it as good as you can by being super, super clear on what you are looking for and what you are working on. Okay, so let's say you find your composer. How do you actually work with them? The most important step for me is the spotting session. If you have never heard that expression, it's basically where the composer and the director sits down together, watch the film together, and you make notes of where the music begins, where it ends, where it starts again, where it ends, and so on. And what you end up with is a list of cues that is a musical piece in a film. And the most important thing is to have notes on what the music should do on every cue. It's way more important to have notes on the function of the music in every cue rather than the sound of the music in every cue. So make sure the scoring process always starts with a proper spotting session. Communicating beforehand with like inspirational playlists, reference playlists, that's also a very good method, I think. I would encourage you as a filmmaker to not be too locked into a specific sound world or genre. I mean, you can have some visions, but also make sure that you feel the composer and see what the composer is able to do. Maybe the composer has some ideas that you didn't think of. They are the experts, after all, that could really benefit your film. So don't be too locked into your visions when you meet the composer for the first time. See a little bit what they can contribute with. What does a film composer expect during the scoring process? When I score films, I expect to receive a copy of the film with a burnt-in time code in SMPTE format. That's crucial for me to synchronize the music to the film. I also expect feedback, and I also expect some decisions. And I know that you are probably fed up with making decisions at this point. You have been making decisions through the script process, through the pre-production process, through filming, and now in post-production, and everybody is just bugging you with making decisions. But hang in there, your film will soon be done, and then you can take vacation from decision-making on that film. But what I require is some sort of decision. Is it a go or is it a no-go? If you don't like the music, I will rewrite the music. But it's important to communicate if you like it or don't like it, if you decide on this is what we want or this is not what we want. And this feedback is usually a continuous process. The composer usually writes the score during a short period of time, and you are expected to be in communication with the composer during this process. You can also decide on another kind of process, but expect to make decisions on music when you're working with the composer. What can you expect from the composer? Well, you should not expect anything else than stellar results on deadline. You can expect to have a collaborative partner. You can expect to have real valuable input on the film from a composer's perspective. When you give feedback, I will always encourage you to give filmic feedback, emotional feedback, and avoid talking about musical terms. Okay, so what about paying the composer? If you are a beginning filmmaker, if you're an independent filmmaker, chances are you don't have much money, and that's fine. But what do you have? If you can't offer proper money, you could at least maybe offer, symbolic money, and you can offer something more. You can offer the composer to be able to license the music in other projects, like a non-exclusivity deal. You should absolutely let the composer use the film in their portfolio with your picture. So make sure you make an export of the final product for the composer so that they can use clips of it in their portfolio. But there are questions you should ask yourself. Is anyone else on the film getting paid? If so, then the composer should be paid too. Best, of course, is to budget for music when you are making a budget early in the pre-production phase. If you're applying for any finances, seeking finance, whether it's from public tax money or from private, you could make sure that you have a composer on board so that they can help you budget for music. Making film music requires time and expensive tools. What do you pay for when you pay a composer? I always make sure that I structure my offer in the negotiations so that my clients can see what I charge for. And I divide them into 4 parts. I divide it into the labor cost. That's where I estimate how much time I will use to create the score, including, any meetings, any administration work, calculating what your labor cost is. That's up to the composer. You can always ask the composer, how did you calculate this? How did you calculate your labor cost? But I make sure that labor is one post in my offer. Then I charge for the internal costs, and that includes rent of my studio. It includes software licenses, any cost that I have during the time that I make the score, that I need to pay in order to make the score, that will be my internal costs. Then we have the external costs, and that would be, paying musicians, paying a score mixer, any sort of external services. Maybe your score doesn't need any external services. A lot of scores are made just by the composer in their studio, mixed by the composer. And then the external costs are zero. The last part will be the rights. Even if you commission music from a composer, you actually need to make sure that you get the rights to synchronize it to the picture. This is agreed upon between you and the composer, but it's important to specify this and that you actually have the right. So make sure that the composer grants you right to actually use the music that you have commissioned, whether you pay for it or not. So in my specification, the rights will be specified as a cost in my offer. It's common that the composer gets an upfront fee that will be a part of the total fee, and that's just for financial security. So that's something you could discuss with your composer as well. So now you know how to find a composer, how to work with them, and how to pay them. Now I want to share some big red flags that you should avoid at all costs. When you are a beginning filmmaker, you usually make everything yourself. Beginning filmmakers typically write the script, run the pre-production, shoot the film, both behind the camera and as a director. And they edit the film, they sound design it, they mix the audio. Maybe the only thing that they don't do is the music. Maybe you are one of those filmmakers. Maybe you make films where you do all of the tasks yourself. Giving up a big portion of that to a composer can feel really scary. And maybe you fear what the music will do to your film. And this is the point where, fearing the music will take over, you hold the composer back. But I would really encourage you to let the composer do their thing. You can always ask for less. I know it feels scary, but keep an open mind to them and don't hold the composer back. Second thing you should avoid is to, negotiating a price for a composer in terms of it's a passion project or we will split the profits. A composer will for sure have passion for the project, but it's your passion project. Nobody shares your level of passion. I think all of your crew will share some level of passion when they are working on your film, but it's essentially your passion project. Offering a split profit on a low or no budget film without a production company means that you are sort of making a hollow promise. I think that you know already that you are not going to make a profit with your film. Actually, you will probably end up losing money. But what it might lead to is a bigger opportunity for you. If your movie turns out great, you can use it for your next application for finance. You can use that movie to land a deal with production companies. I don't know. So what you should offer instead of a split profit is some sort of a, first-hand possibility to make an offer or to make a pitch for your next film. My last big red flag is to ghost. It happens from time to time that your creative differences will become apparent during the project. Maybe you did a mismatch with your composer, and that's fine. You can end the collaboration anytime. I think all composers have been, fired or rejected at some point in their career. It sucks, yes, but it's also part of the gig. It just is. So if you're not happy with the composer, if you feel that the movie is going in a direction you don't want, you can end the collaboration. That's fine. But be sure to tell the composer. This might seem obvious, but it actually happens that directors just quit responding. They go underground, they cannot be reached on phone or email or anything, and you just sit there and you're wondering, am I still making this music for this film? I don't know. And that's what I would call ghosting the composer, and please don't do that. That's not kind. So if you want to fire your composer, you gotta have the guts to tell it to their face. Okay, that's my run through on how to hire a film composer. Do you have any questions on how to work with composers? Then drop a comment down below. If you want any thoughts from me on your project, then get in touch and we can discuss what your project might need in terms of music. And if you found this useful, be sure to send it to your director friends so they can also take part of this conversation. Like this video so more people can find it, subscribe for more, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers!